Hello, everyone. Welcome to Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin, and this is my guest, Hunter. He's my brother. Today, we'll be discussing Son of Frankenstein from 1939, starring Boris Karloff and Basil Rathbone. And so, before we get started, why don't you introduce yourself again, Hunter?
Yep. So I'm Hunter Scullin, Harrison's little brother. You can find my boring movie reviews on Letterboxd. That is a good movie. You can find my mediocre art on Instagram at Hunt's Art. Okay.
So, Hunt's art is okay, or Hunt's art okay?
Hunt's Art. Okay.
Okay,
I haven't
awesome.
posted on there for 3 years, but it's there. I'm gonna start
Mm,
again.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, thanks again for coming on. And so we'll kind of get into Son of Frankenstein. But before we get started, this is your first Frankenstein movie from this era, right?
Right. Yep.
Okay. And kind of what were your initial impressions going into it and kind of thoughts of it overall?
Um. So initially, I was pretty excited for this one because I knew it had Boris Karloff, so I knew it would at least bring back um like the actual Frankenstein character.
Hmm.
So I guess in that sense I was thinking it would probably be a better movie compared to some of the other ones we'd watched.
Yeah, especially the 40s ones.
Yeah. Um I didn't really have any expectations though, because I don't know, I hadn't seen any other ones. Comparing it to the other movies, I was hopeful that it would be better and was pleasantly surprised.
Nice. All right. Well, and I've been watching all of them so far. So this is the third one in the series. And I love the first one. The second one is okay. And so going into this one, I was a little hesitant just because of my experience with the second one. But like you, I was also pleasantly surprised. So I'm really excited to talk about it today. So let's get started talking about the plot. What were your thoughts on the plot?
I actually gave the plot a higher score than I normally do. I gave it a 4. Um I enjoyed it. I thought it did exactly what it should have, uh, being about the son of Dr. Frankenstein,
Hmm.
that he would be interested in his dad's work and he would want to redeem his family name.
Yeah.
And that was pretty believable to me. That idea that he acts kind of aloof to the idea of what his father had done. And then he gets there and just being the scientist he is and also being kind of part of that heritage, he's inspired by it instead of repulsed by it and starts kind of again having that kind of like the original Frankenstein, having that kind of obsession almost.
Yeah. And you could definitely tell Mel Brooks' film Young Frankenstein takes a lot from this movie
Hmm.
and the second and first, but actually seems a lot from this one
Hmm.
because he's also a descendant. Oh, what's his name? Gene Wilder's character. He's a descendant of the professor or doctor. He's not the original one. So, yeah, no, that's awesome.
That's cool. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah,
That I loved seeing all the Young Frankenstein isms that come directly from this movie.
yeah.
Like entire characters come from here. So yeah, definitely makes that worth watching. But
Oh, absolutely. If and I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite comedies ever too. So check that one out. All right. Well, I also love this plot. I gave it a 4 too. Um, I loved Basil Rathbone as the son of Frankenstein, and he actually is that title. I think that's interesting because sometimes, like in the last movie, Bride of Frankenstein, it's actually talking about the monster's wife,
like Dr.
not
Frankenstein.
about Dr. Frankenstein. But this one is actually talking about uh, what's his name? Henry? What was the name of
Oh,
Basil Rath? I can't remember his
oh,
name, but it's about Basil Rathbone's character. And so I love that dynamic to it and how kind of how he slowly gets interested and wants to um wants to help reanimate. He doesn't actually reanimate Frankenstein back to life per se, but he wants to help him because he's curious about it. He kind of has that morbid curiosity. So I really love that aspect of it. And I also love the kind of the twist of Igor being kind of the villain in this movie, not
hmm,
necessarily the monster himself. So
yeah.
that's kind of different from the other ones. The other two, the monster is the villain, really. because he's angry about being alive again, So I like that kind of twist to it.
Is Igor in the other movies?
He's in the first one. I don't think he's in the second one, but he's a very minor character in the first one.
So, Dr. Frankenstein's son is Wolf.
Wolf, yes.
Which actually, I didn't recognize because they usually call him Baron Frankenstein.
Yeah,
Baron. But so when his wife started saying Wolf, I thought that was like her like pet name for him.
Yeah.
I was like,
that's kind of a weird name.
Weird.
Yeah, but that is
That's
his name.
Huh? Is Wolf.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Baron Wolf von Frankenstein.
It's a little weird, but now I think about it, I knew a guy named Wolf in elementary school.
Really?
Yeah, he was a weird kid. Anyways, okay. Well, let's kind of move on then into the acting. What are your thoughts on the acting?
I gave the acting. Well, you know what? I gave it a 3. I'd probably bump that up to like a 3.5. I'll bump it up to a 4 because I liked everybody's performances. I liked Wolf's performance.
Yeah,
I thought he was really good.
Yeah,
I also liked Igor.
Yeah,
I thought I was a little like it felt a little old, kind of how he's like this older man with the weird accent and whatever. But like he was believable. I liked his character. He seemed kind of like this crazy, not like totally unhinged, but clearly not all there. Clearly, perhaps disturbed. Like a little dangerous and disturbed in kind of an unsettling way. I really liked that. I thought he did really good.
Yeah, I like when he kind of pops up in windows all creepily. He's just
sitting playing his flute.
There's like water and lightning and stuff, and he's just
yeah, I thought that was kind of lame, but it was kind of goofy.
Yeah,
for the horror aesthetic, and then he literally is just like there. And and I didn't recognize that it was him.
It's Dracula.
The way they introduce him. Oh, that's Dracula?
Yeah, Boris Karloff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Goodness. The way they introduce him is like while they're driving up to the mansion, he's just like standing in the rain.
Yeah.
And the lights pass him and he runs off. Yeah. and then you don't see him again for like 20 minutes. So like I forgot about him. And then in the library, they show him like hiding in the window and stuff. You're like, what the?
Yeah. Which makes you wonder, what was he doing all that time?
I don't know.
Because he didn't have the monster yet, I don't think, right? Or
no, he did.
He did, but was he moving around?
No, he was nursing the monster.
Yeah, point. So maybe he was just going back to him and
I think he was just trying to see what they were up to, and then he'd go sit with his friend.
What's that weirdo doing over there?
Yeah. So those were kind of corny, but his performance when he was on screen, it was a little unsettling. I didn't know if I could trust him. And Wolf just trusts him. So
yeah. No, I agree. I actually gave it a 4 as well. I loved Bela Lugosi as Igor. I thought he was great. A great villain. Great twist on that character.
Yeah.
And I loved everyone else too. I loved Basil Rathbone as what's his name? Wolf Frankenstein. I even loved the little kid that they had that played his son. I thought he was hilarious.
Yeah, he's cute.
Said the funniest things. Actually, the one I didn't like that much was Boris Karloff as the monster, because most of the movie he's just laying back doing nothing.
Yeah. Huh. True.
Because in the first one, he comes to life, and then you kind of see the humanity to him because he hangs out with this little girl. Mm-hmm. But then, being the monster he is, he throws her into water and she drowns.
Oh yeah.
So like he's more involved in the movie. Mm-hmm. This one seemed more focused on Baron Frankenstein than it did on the monster.
Yeah. Interesting in making Baron and making Wolf and Igor more interesting characters, they accidentally made the monster pretty one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't do a ton. He does a lot of the dirty work, but as a character, he's just there when he needs to be there.
Yeah, which is really disappointing because I think this is the last time, if not one of the last times, he ever played Frankenstein's monster, which is really sad because he was great in first one and even the second one. Even though I don't like that one as much, he's definitely the highlight in that one for me. Especially because in the first one, the a windmill comes down, he's burned and scarred, and so in the beginning of the first or the second one rather, he's like missing his hair, he's all scarred up and all scary looking because of that.
Mhm.
So it's kind of that continuity there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of sad that they don't really do that in this one. And I am wondering too, because how far in the future is this supposed to take place? Because the first one seemed like it was present day 1931, but Henry and his wife just got married. So, like, they didn't have a kid yet.
Mhm.
But now this movie comes out 8 years later, and Baron Frankenstein's like a full on 30-year-old guy. So, it's.
So it's 30 years in the future.
It's 30. Is it supposed to be in the 60s? Like, I don't know,
True.
but
Hmm.
there's kind of some continuity thing. That's kind of more of the plot, but I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not a complete continual continuity, but again, the acting of Boris Karloff, or not Boris Karloff, I keep saying him. That's what I didn't like. The acting of Bela Lugosi and Basil Rathbone really, really set the stage for me. Even the wife, who's barely in it, I actually liked her too.
Mhm. Yeah.
Pretty solid cast all around. Even the minor characters are great and
Mhm.
all that. Although I will say, I miss the lady who's in the second one, who's like really, really loud and just kind of obnoxious. She kind of is the Frau Blucher character.
Oh, okay.
She's like, "Whoa, Frankenstein! Whoa, get away, get away!" Like she's really funny. I kind of missed her in this one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's so funny.
That's fun.
But yeah, all right. What are your thoughts on the directing?
I gave the directing a 3.
Okay.
I thought maybe I would give it a higher score. Actually, I'll think about it. This movie came off to me as like they actually wanted to make a Frankenstein movie. They actually liked the character. Maybe the monster. I think we've kind of touched on him being a little lackluster, but overall, like the set, the aesthetic, the writing and the acting, all of it was like pretty well done. So
yeah,
to me, it did come off as a movie with a director who liked it a lot more compared to like the Mummy movies we've seen or the Dracula movies we watched.
yeah.
So I thought they did what they could with the little kid. He was adorable. He had some funny lines, and I loved when he was on the screen. But every once in a while, it felt like they had to make the decision between using their expensive roles to do a retake,
Yeah.
or they were like, you know what? He figured out the line. We'll just keep it.
It's as good as it's gonna get.
Because literally in one of them, he starts his line and then
He says,
pauses
like,
and then restarts. But
I think they're at the dinner table, right?
yeah,
With the inspector guy. Yeah.
yeah. Or it might have been earlier when he's like, "What are those?" Talking about the cool set pieces.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But he's adorable though. I've been hunting. I got tigers and elephants. He's just cute. But
Yeah. No, I love
but
that.
every once in a while, I was like, probably budget wise, they were like, we can't reshoot that. It was good enough.
Yeah, the kid's already 7 years old. We can't use him again. Yeah.
But
good. Well, I gave it a 5. I really loved the directing style in this one because it felt really German expressionistic, which is a trend that the early ones, like early Frankenstein, early Dracula, even Mummy, they started out doing. And I love that they continue that here. Like the castle on the inside is very, like there's a lot of shadows and a lot of interesting camera angles. And it wasn't perfectly set up either. It was kind of a little skewed and I guess helter-skelter is the word. I don't know, but it looked really interesting. Maybe that's not the right word.
Off kilter, maybe.
That's what I think. That's what I. Not Charles Manson. No. Oh gosh. No. That's what you get for knowing too many random words, I guess. Off kilter is what I meant to say. Anyway, no, I love the style of this movie, and it seemed like everyone was having a great time. Was really trying to make, like you were saying, a really good movie.
Yeah.
because you can tell after once the 40s started, the studio I think really cut back because they were not this high quality in the 40s.
Yeah.
They really, it could have been because of the war. I know too that Carl Langley and his son, who is the main head behind all of these monster movies, they were ousted from the company for wasting too much money.
Hmm.
The board's like, you guys are wasting a lot of money and not getting enough in return, which is sad because as a result of that, we didn't get these high quality monster movies anymore. So it is what it is. But no, I loved it. I think it's James Whale who does it again. So he did the first one and the second one. He might have done this one too because it still feels similar to the other 2.
Mhm.
I could be mistaken, but yeah, I loved it.
Right on.
All right, cinematography and special effects.
So I gave the cinematography and the special effects, the Cinementos Crunch and the Special K a 5. I loved it. I thought kind of what you were talking about, the sets, which maybe would fit in directing. I kind of mix the two categories sometimes, anyways.
I do too. It's hard to really distinguish sometimes.
Yeah, I felt like the sets were like intentionally minimal, where it was like you could see the stage, like the kitchen or the dining room, for example. It's almost like you see a black stage.
Yeah.
And then they built these two, like, there's like gargoyles on these long curved
like archways.
Yeah, and they have like a balcony on top of them, and just all the rooms were really cool.
Yeah, really interesting.
Kind of more minimal, and then the cave was more interesting. So it's like they kind of saved. Maybe the two most interesting sets were the library and the cave, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I thought the library was super cool. Out in the background, you see like the lightning flashing on like the painted set.
Yeah, that was cool.
I also, Igor, was hung, so he has this like weird janky neck piece that they put on or something sticking out. Like
that was crazy.
I thought it was great. Also, actually, the opening scene or not the opening scene, but when they go into the castle for the first time, there's this huge shadow from the staircase railing onto the wall. Like they put a light on it that just, I don't know, made these huge tall shadows up the wall. Like that then became like the wallpaper of the castle, or kind of the feel of the castle. Where it was like it was really minimal, but the way they were lighting the sets and creating these huge shadows and dark spaces just made a really interesting artistic kind of approach to it.
Yeah, no, I agree, because you could have so easily made it look really, really fake. I think it has a lot to do with the lighting that they did in that room, because it could easily look just like a flat background with random stairs built into it. Yeah. Well, I also gave it a 5. I thought the costume work was amazing on the monster. He still looks as good as the first and the second one. Even though they didn't use him too much, I still think he looked great. I love that library room too. Really, really cool with the lightning bolts coming down and the rain too. That was really cool. And then I think probably one of the coolest set pieces was just that bubbly goo stuff. I think it was in that cave you're talking about. There's like a ladder leading up to it, and
the sulfur,
sulfur, it was like the sulfur pit.
Pool.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, and how it catches on fire at the end, and that was really cool. So 5 out of 5 for me. All right, what are your thoughts on the music?
I forgot to be paying attention to the music, but I gave it a 2 just because I don't remember it. I don't know. Maybe it was really good. But it never struck me that there was music occurring in the movie. So,
okay. Well, I give it a 4.
See,
I liked it because it reminded me a lot of the score from the first movie. It probably was a lot of the same music. Perfectly tense for me, especially in scenes with the monster. Like we're walking into that, he's like in a cellar or something. And then the light shines on him, and it's like dun dun dun, and there's the monster. It's like I love the music there, and just all around, it felt very similar to the first and the second one. So I was really happy with that because I was afraid it was going to be like the Mummy movie or the Dracula movies we saw, where you can't really distinguish between them. But this, to me, you can you can tell apart from those ones, especially. Like you can tell, oh yeah, this is Frankenstein music.
Mhm.
All right. Well, what's your final letterbox score?
Well, before we do that, we have to mention one of the best influences that this movie had on young Frankenstein was the inspector
Oh, the
with his
inspector. How could I
mechanical
forget
arm.
he was my favorite.
He's like missing his arm because the monster, when he was a child, ripped it off.
Yeah.
But so he has to like lift his arm and position his hand and stuff. And like, oh, it's
Yeah.
funny. And the little boy's like, "What's wrong with your arm?"
Yeah. Oh, I lost it. And you know in Young Frankenstein when he's like throwing darts with it? I thought that with the inspector in that one stabbing the darts into his arm, I thought that was just a funny gag that Mel Brooks did. No, he does it in this too. He just stabs him. I was like, wait, he literally just took from this
Yeah.
movie.
That's
Oh,
kind of a gag. That's kind of a another kind of slightly goofy thing about this movie,
yeah.
where it's like it's a horror movie, but there are these like little nuggets of like kind of off, kind of silly,
Yeah, kind of dumb,
but
but kind of funny.
it was good. Yeah,
No, I loved him. I can't believe I forgot all about him.
me
He was
too.
he was great. And probably the best hero in the movie too,
Yeah.
compared to the dad. The dad was just so focused on the monster that he kind of forgot his other responsibilities, kind of
Mhm.
like Frankenstein in the first movie. So kind of like his dad.
And how interesting is that? Because he like was hurt, like literally lost his arm to the monster, but out of like respect and goodness, like is there to protect the family from his own people, his own town.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's an interesting twist too. I didn't even think about that.
yeah, he's got a lot going on. But he was like I like how you call him the hero. He was really the hero of the movie.
Yeah, even though he doesn't even kill the monster, the dad does. But yeah, no, he's definitely the good guy, which is so interesting too. Because you would think someone who lost his arm like that to the monster would hate the monster and want him killed, but like you were saying, protect him from the people. Crazy mob, which
Yeah,
is
the
even
mom.
scarier.
Hmm. Which, by the way, I think I expected him to be evil because he's kind of the antagonist of Young Frankenstein.
Hmm.
So I thought he was also going to be an antagonist, and he's trying to uncover what Frankenstein is doing, what Wolf is doing.
Yeah, yeah,
But as an audience viewer, I didn't agree with Wolf. I
yeah.
didn't.
He's kind
So
of more of the villain.
yeah, actually, one of the coolest parts. So the whole perception of the town is is encapsulated on his father's grave. They chiseled into his grave "Maker of Monsters,"
Yeah,
and kind of what maybe the turning point for Wolf is after being so inspired by what he sees and realizing that it's possible what his father did, the animation of life, all these things, the new scientific understanding that his father didn't have, that he now has, all that stuff. He like takes a torch and uses the charcoal of it to cross out monsters and writes men,
yeah.
and now has this like passion for what his father had done,
I like that a lot.
and to me kind of set him apart from the audience too. So he kind of did become a villain.
Yeah,
Just like we know the danger of the monster, we know that he's a bad guy. We just saw 2 movies of him doing bad things,
killing people.
so we know the danger. But then we see this inspired scientist person being like so caught up in it that he has to. I don't know, but I love that. Actually, that was probably my favorite part of the movie, of
Yeah,
him crossing that out and writing men, and just kind of the, I don't know, just all the different, the weight of what he was doing with the community and with everything like that. So
no, I agree. I really liked that too. In fact, if they ever do a release of this, like in 4K, that'd be kind of a cool cover where it's like crossed out and says men. I think that'd be a really cool poster, even too. So, all right. So, what does that bring your letterbox score to?
after adjusting the numbers a little bit from what I originally wrote, it comes out to a 4. And I would highly recommend it. I still haven't seen the original Frankenstein, so maybe I should watch that one first, or maybe if you're recommending it to somebody, watch that one first. But yeah, for a monster movie that I think is still, I kind of find myself being a little bit more of a modern audience, maybe not necessarily super interested in the more classic era of movies.
Hmm.
And I got a lot out of this movie. I enjoyed it a lot, and I thought there was some cool kind of. Well, I really like Frankenstein though. I read the book, and so I.
Yeah, that's what that is right
That's
there.
what that is right there. Which, by the way, a plug for Bernie Wrightson, incredible illustrator.
Yeah,
who
it's incredible art in
did a
there.
ton of illustrations for the book. But I love this story. I love Dr. Frankenstein, and I feel like I could feel a lot of that similar passion for the characters in this movie, which to me just really brought up its appeal, its
Mhm.
interest, and I think for that reason I gave it a high score, and I recommend it.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. I also got it a 4 out of 5. I also recommend it. And even if you haven't seen the original Frankenstein, I still think you can kind of get a good glimpse into what the story is like. And also, if you've seen Young Frankenstein too, you'll kind of see, oh, that's where Mel Brooks got his inspiration from. And I think it's a great continuation. And honestly, it's probably a good conclusion too. I know there's a couple more after this one, so we'll see, right? But I think it's kind of a nice way to end that almost trilogy here. Starting out with Henry Frankenstein, creating the monster, and then this movie kind of destroys the monster. So it's kind of like full circle, good character arc that I really, really enjoy. So yeah, I highly recommend it too.
What did your final score come out to?
4 out of 5. Technically 4.4, but
Right on.
4 out of 5. All right. Well, those are our thoughts on Son of Frankenstein from 1939. And before we go, why don't you plug your stuff again, Hunter?
Sure. So you can find me on Letterboxd at It's a Good Movie. You can find me on Instagram at HuntsArtOK. And if you would please look up Bernie Wrightson and enjoy some of his incredible artwork.
It's from Dark Horse, I think.
Is it?
On the set. Yeah, Dark
Yeah,
Horse.
Dark Horse Books.
Yeah.
They produced this beautiful, massive Frankenstein book. I had to read it in high school, and I went to my dad's office and I found this one to read. But it's full of these incredible illustrations. It's so good. I love it. Anyways.
Nice. Well, I definitely want to read this. I don't think I've actually ever read the full story. All right. Well, and thanks again for coming on, Hunter. And make sure to subscribe to Really Old Movies on Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, YouTube at Really Old Movies. And new episodes are released Saturdays, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. And again, thanks for coming on and thanks for listening. This has been Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin. Take care.